The world had turned upside down. Not in the way people talk about in movies, the kind where heroes rise and villains fall, but in a way that was slow, silent, and utterly merciless. Katrina didn't know how long she'd been awake anymore. Her body lay curled atop what used to be her living room furniture, the armoire, now overturned and floating like a tiny makeshift raft. All around her, water moved in gentle swells, carrying remnants of her home. Soaked books, shattered frames, the broken remains of a life she still couldn't grasp had disappeared. The air was thick and rotten, heavy with heat. Every breath felt like a struggle. And then she heard it, a soft splash. She blinked, water dripping from her eyelashes. Across the room, something bobbed in the murk. A shape. Ron? She whispered, her voice dry and cracked. The shape lifted its head. A man, soaked, scratched, and alive. Katrina. Ron's voice sounded distant, like it traveled through layers of wet cotton. You okay? For a moment, disbelief and shock braided together, and they laughed, a short, surprised burst of sound that felt strange and foreign. Against everything, they had survived. How did you even get here? Katrina asked, her mind foggy. Ron shrugged, eyes scanning the debris-choked room. He opened his mouth to answer, and then the water erupted. A sleek, gray form shot upward from the depths with a speed that defied logic. Something massive, shaped with the elegant menace of a shark, broke the surface and lunged. Ron's scream was cut short. The jaws closed, and within seconds, the room was still again, and water bearing only drifting bubbles, and the faintest tinge of red. Katrina's scream tore free as shock hammered through her chest. Her breath came in shallow gasps. Then she heard something else. A cry, not her own. Another voice, tiny, fearful, faint. Ivy, she whispered, panic making her voice sharp. Ivy. Another cry, muffled and small, echoed from deeper inside the house. The water was more than water now. It was a hunting ground. Katrina's gaze snapped to the hallway. A triangular fin slid through the water like a shadow, purposeful, silent, relentless. Her mind raced. Images flickered in her head. The hospital room. The doctor urging her to push. That first sharp cry of her newborn baby. Ivy had come into the world screaming. A fighter. And now she needed her mother. Katrina forced her numb limbs forward, kicking through debris and rising water. Each stroke was agony. Each breath a battle. The erratic cries of her daughter pulled her like a lighthouse beacon through a storm. Behind her, the water surged once more. The fin veered toward her. Her fingers closed around the banister of the staircase leading upward, higher and farther from the flood. She hauled herself up, water sloshing over her knees, then her waist, then her chest. The beast thrashed below, its presence announced by ripples and violence that seemed too purposeful for mere instinct. She slipped, she clawed, but she kept climbing. Finally, she reached a narrow crawl space. The attic. Her heart pounded so hard it felt like it might burst. Inside that cramped, dusty loft, she found Ivy, nestled in a floating crib wedged between beams, her tiny face wet with water but alive. Katrina scooped her daughter into her arms, sobbing, trembling, overwhelmed with relief, until every nerve in her body sang with desperate joy, and then she felt it. A bang. The floor beneath them quaked. Heavy movement just below. The water rushed noisily. And then another bang. The bull shark was ramming upward. Katrina's breath hitched. She wrapped Ivy close, protecting her with everything left in her, and glanced toward a small attic window, just big enough. The water churned violently beneath them, and with no choice left, Katrina pushed the window open against the storm's rage. Rain lashed in. Wind howled. She slid Ivy in a makeshift sling against her chest, wrapped in a soaked bedsheet she'd found. Then she hoisted herself out the window and onto the slick roof. Behind them, the creature burst through the attic floor, its presence more force than shape in that moment, but it was too late. Water gushed out, and the beast fell back into the debris below. Katrina slid down the slick roof, her hands and feet scraping against shingles, blood and rain mixing on her skin. Ivy whimpered, but the baby was safe. In her arms, nestled against her heart. At the peak of the incline, she collapsed, exhausted, soaked, trembling. And then she saw it, light. A rescue helicopter cut through the storm-torn sky above, its searchlight piercing the darkness with a warm, radiant beam that felt almost holy. For one surreal moment, Katrina felt the chaos around her melt away. The din of the storm became distant. The light touched her face, and then her memory drifted to another moment, that first fragile moment holding Ivy in a hospital room, terrified and unsure, but determined. She had been afraid she wouldn't be enough, but she had fought, and now she would survive. She lifted Ivy higher, crying out, not with terror now, but with a raw, unfiltered release of hope and love. The light held steady, a silent promise that they had been seen, that they were not forgotten. Katrina held her daughter tight as help drew near. They were still alive, not just survivors of a storm, survivors of fear, despair, and doubt. If you'd like to read the full story and explore more haunting fiction, subscribe to Kevin Frazier, horror writer, on Substack.